This is Stock Day. News and interviews from the microcap world. Public information on the OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world. With your host, Everett Jolly.
Today on the show, we have a very exciting guest, Mark Radom. He is the CEO of GRPH, that's Graphite Corp on OTC. And they are involved in a business identifying nanomaterials in the technology industry, servicing the batteries and supercapacitors. Mark, welcome on the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Tell my listeners a little bit of what you guys have been doing, a little bit of what's special about graphene electrodes, and what you guys have been doing.
Sure. Okay. Graphite Corp is a company that used to be in the mining business, but the new ownership took over in the summer of 2014, and this group of people, the majority owners, have a lot of experience in commercializing technologies developed by universities around the world and bringing them to the market. They started off in biotech and recently have identified as advanced materials, nanotechnology, as a promising new direction. I think that everybody's familiar with the Industrial Revolution and the information revolution, that started with the rise of the internet.
Absolutely.
In the late 1990s and so on and so forth. And the technology boom has just been incredible. But one thing that's lagged behind actually is materials. So we have incredible technologies, but we don't have materials to go along with them to maximize the performance and benefits of those technologies. So now you're seeing a tremendous effort around the world to try to catch up to the pace of technology innovation by bringing new materials onto the market that can do more, go more, last longer, and are cheaper than what's out there at the moment. So to make a long story short, we decided to focus and hone in on this opportunity. We identified a technology developed by Rice University, one of the U.S., actually probably the world's leading electrochemist, James Tour of Rice University, who developed a technology to make a super performance electrode, which an electrode is the main operative part of a battery or an energy storage device. So I guess the best way to describe this is that when most people have smartphones, and smartphones last a number of hours depending on how heavy the usage is, and you constantly have to go back, especially if you're on a flight or at an airport or stuck somewhere, go back and try to charge your smartphone, and that's really inconvenient. So what we have is we've managed to cram a lot more operative material into the same space, which means that the batteries using our technology, and I'll go into this in a little bit more detail in a moment, can last a lot longer than anything else on the market and can charge at a very quick rate, like minutes instead of hours. So
let me ask you a question. What exactly is, for myself and my listeners, what exactly is nanomaterials?
Okay, most of us are used to thinking of things in three dimensions. That's length, width, and height. So let's take out one of those dimensions. Let's take out height, and you only have length and width. So when you do that, what used to have three dimensions, when it goes to two dimensions, behaves very differently. It becomes very small, microscopically small, even less than microscopically small. When for some reason, and I'm not sure anybody knows why, but for some reason when things get that small and compact, they behave in an entirely different manner. So let me give you an example. I mean, most people know what a pencil is. Pencils today use graphite as the pencil lead. Graphite is a commodity. It's a mineral found all over the world. Mine. It has some value, but it's relatively inexpensive, and it functions very well as pencil lead. It also happens to function very well as the operative material in batteries today. Now, when you take graphite and you slice it into very thin layers, so thin that effectively these layers are almost one atom thick, or maybe a little bit more than that, they become what's called graphene. So graphite is three dimensions, length, width, and height. Graphene is length and width without any height. And when you slice it that thinly, it takes on super performance capabilities. For example, everybody knows what graphite is capable of, but when it's mapped in, graphene becomes the world's strongest material. It also becomes one of the world's best semiconductors and thermal conductors. For example, you can taking a strand of air, or excuse me, a strand of graphene that's as thick as a human hair, you can hoist a grand piano from the ground up to the top of the Empire State Building without losing it. That's how strong graphene is. So, for whatever reason, when you get from big to small, really small, you get special performance. There's actually a lot of other materials that are coming onto the market, other nanomaterials that demonstrate this. But so nano means the almost no height. So something that's sliced so thin that it has almost no height. That's when it becomes a nanomaterial.
So this really distinguishes your company from your competition.
Well, there's a lot of companies that are trying to use nanomaterials for a variety of purposes. Even we have a number of companies in the energy storage space, which is where we are, that are also trying to use nanomaterials. But there are differences in the various nanomaterials. And the nice thing about graphene, which is what we're focused on, is that it is safe. It's not toxic. It doesn't cause any environmental damage. It doesn't contribute to global warming. It's not difficult to dispose of. So it's got a lot of social and environmental benefits on top of it. So that's one way to distinguish us from other nanomaterials that can be more toxic or involve toxic processes and things like that. But I would say that if you want to get into what makes us different from the other competitors in with nanomaterials, is that not only do we have a very powerful and compelling underlying technology, like I said, which crams a lot more operative material into the same space of a battery, which means that it lasts longer. But where the competition has failed has been in scaling it up. In other words, producing it in large quantities with the same performance at an inexpensive price. So people can get to prototypes where I can produce one battery, even if it costs me $1 million to get to that battery. But nobody has seemed to figure out how to make that battery from one into the hundreds of millions you need to supply the world market.
Mark, you bring up a great question, and that was going to be my next question. So obviously, you guys have a plan to bring graphite to the marketplace. What is your plan to do that and to monetize it?
Okay, very good. So, all right, we do have a prototype that works, demonstrates the performance that we achieve in the lab. In other words, I can just give you a very basic example: a battery, a smartphone battery that can last for 3 days, or that can charge in 5 minutes, that can fit into your existing devices and doesn't really cost any more than current batteries. So that we've done. What we're working on now, and our plan to go to the market, is to try to produce that battery. We have one prototype or a few prototypes right now, but try to produce it on an industrial scale so that we can get it out there and people can test it and can start building it into their devices. So for that, we have hired probably one of the world's leading experts in scaling up advanced material manufacturing, a guy who used to be a top executive at Applied Materials, which is a large company that's trading on the NASDAQ, and his name is
very well.
Yeah. So he was a very big producer at Applied Materials, and he was so impressed with the technology that he decided to take it over and run with it. So he left what he was doing before. He'd already left Applied Materials, but he had some other things he was involved with. He left that, joined our team. He's probably one of the world's leading experts. But on top of that, we have already developed special know-how and other IP that goes directly to the production of the material, whereas the competition never really got to that point. They were able to develop some prototype material, but never actually figured out how to develop it on a mass scale. So we now have in place not only a world-class management team, but we have the know-how and the IP to actually scale it up. And
do you have a time frame of when you're going to be able to bring your product to a commercial application and actually have it out on the market? Have you guys thought about that? Do you have any sort of a time frame?
Yes. Okay. We expect to start penetrating the markets in probably the summer or fall of 2017. It will take a long time to get the sauce right. So even though we're starting the scale-up process now. It's going to take a lot of optimization, a lot of attempts to go through and produce the material in, with various permutations and various differences so that we can refine it to the maximum extent possible. So that should take us probably around 18 months. So I think probably the fall of 2017. Maybe before then we can start doing something. I think that the easiest markets to penetrate will be the battery charger cases, like the Mophie case, where you stick your iPhone or your smartphone into this external case and it doubles the battery life. We could do the same thing, but not double it. We could increase it by 5 times for a fraction of the price that people are paying for the Mophie device. We could go into e-bikes, e-scooters, forklifts, anything that's sort of the lower hanging fruit type industries. We could do that, I'd say, within 18 months. Now it'll take a little bit longer to get into the phones and the cars because you need a couple of years of performance data. But once we get into the bikes and the scooters and the maybe the drones and get that data, performance data going, you can then start approaching the sexier, higher end, more lucrative markets like the cars, the Teslas, and the smartphones. That'll be probably 3 to 4 years out.
So your technology will be felt by the consumers out there probably within the next 18 months. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say 18 months, yes. Now,
okay.
It's funny you say felt, but no one will really notice anything other than the fact that their devices or whatever they're riding on or using is just going to last a lot longer and charge a lot quicker. So it's not like you're going to see, unless they open it up to see what's inside. I doubt most people do it, but they'll feel it through the performance, not through knowing that anything special is in there.
My guest has been Mark Radom, CEO of Graphite Corp, symbol GRPH on the OTC markets. Mark, is there anything you would like to tell our listeners before we let you go and give us any kind of updates to look for GRPH?
Sure. I just like to add one more point that I alluded to briefly before, and that's the beauty of what we're trying to do is that it's not going to cost any more than what's out there and existing used in the market today. So the smartphone price, whatever it is not going to have to be increased because of our technology. And the car batteries are going to stay the same. So all of this can be done at a competitive price that will not be felt. You use the word felt by the consumer, so they'll feel the performance, they won't feel the price. So that's a very important point. I don't think people want to go spend more of their hard-earned money, even though they get the performance. This way, they kind of get it almost for free from their end. And
absolutely, well spoken.
And yeah, the last thing is just stay tuned. The next several weeks and months, I think there's going to be some news, some good news, and there's going to be a lot to be happy about.
Mark, thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
We will reach out to you in about 60 or 90 days and keep our listeners an update on your progress. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care.